we're going to now have the PPE demonstration by David Stanton, who has kindly offered his time and comes from Netcare. And over to you, David.
Thank you. Just a couple of opening comments, and I'm going to extend on what the previous speaker spoke about, and that is that there's no need to panic when we as EMS deal with these patients. If we follow a safe process, we'll be safe. But more importantly, I think the biggest responsibility for EMS is in fact to make sure that the next patient that we care for isn't going to catch the bug from the patient we just looked after. So we can be really bad vectors of spreading of this virus if we don't look after ourselves and our equipment and our setting. So a lot of my talk is really going to focus on looking after our environment so that we're protecting the patients we look after. Because a lot of them are going to be vulnerable patients that will easily succumb to COVID-19. So it's kind of been alluded to already, some of the things that you will need from a PPE perspective. Something that doesn't change and should be standard to anybody in EMS is proper eye protection and just simple disposable gloves. You don't have to double glove, you don't have to do anything funny with gloves. A single layer of disposable gloves is all that you need. If the glove happens to tear, take your gloves off and wash your hands. As long as you wash your hands correctly, there is no risk. It's not like some of the really exciting, dangerous bacteria that we have out there in the world that if your glove tears, suddenly the world is going to end. Take your gloves off if they tear, wash your hands, you're done. Glasses do not count as PPE. You need to have proper eye protection that protects either the whole eye and either a proper set of safety glasses or a face shield itself. And you'll see, I'll put this all on in a moment. Just on the approach to the patient, so EMS are obviously often dealing with patients in their workplaces or in their houses. The simple thing to do is when you approach the patient, we know that there's a safe distance, and the safe distance seems to be more than 2 meters. Your first approach and your first interaction should be done from more than 2 meters away. Because if you do a good history and ask the questions that you need to ask from 2 meters away, you're safe to do the history, and you can assess the patient there and then for if they are at risk for being a patient carrying COVID-19. And if you assess that the patient has no travel history, has never been in contact with anybody that's sick, or they've called you for something completely different, like they've broken their leg, and you've screened them out, carry on like normal, you're not worried about it. But if you, from your 2 meter conversation, assess them of having a travel history, all of those questions that we went through earlier, travel history, they're sick, they've been in contact, then you know from the outset, right, I now want to protect myself in this situation. Some patients may be saying, well, you're standing 2 meters away and you're helping me. We're doing this from a safety perspective, and it's about our safety and all the other patients' safety that I'm going to treat for the rest of the day and the rest of the week. So if you do find that your patient is now at risk, where you're in PPE, and I would start with just gloves and a mask. And one of the first things to do to protect the situation is to give the patient a mask and have them put a mask on. And it can even be a simple surgical face mask. It doesn't have to be an N95 mask. It can be a much cheaper surgical face mask, and ask the patient to put it on themselves. And that immediately makes the environment safe, because as soon as they're coughing, it's going to be kept within that surgical face mask. So just give them a surgical face mask to put on. That mitigates, in fact, the majority of the risk for the rest of the situation. It's just them wearing the mask. Right. There's 2 options in terms of what we're going to protect our bodies with. And it's going to depend on what you have available in your setting. In some settings, to start off with, you may just have a simple plastic apron. And I would actually suggest that that's probably good enough. Just a simple plastic apron over what you're wearing. And I'm sort of going to talk about the end at the beginning now. But one of the problems we have in EMS is what do we do with our uniforms at the end of the day? So if you go into a known patient and you're being sent to go and transfer a patient, one of the things you can do to protect your uniform from getting the bug is you either get scrubs from the hospital, so you go to the theatre and borrow some scrubs that you can then return to the theatre and they can be washed, or if you're lucky enough to maybe be able to get hold of disposable scrubs that you can wear just for that transfer. Because the alternative is you wear your uniform, and in EMS in South Africa, at the end of your working day, you go home in that same uniform. And that's maybe not great from protecting our own family's perspective. So if you know that you're going to go and transfer this patient, go and find something to wear that's not going to go home with you afterwards. The nice probably way to do it is if you can set up a system where your uniform stays at work and you go home in your civilian clothing. Really organized systems, your uniform stays at work and gets washed at work. And you go home in cities. It's a much safer way to do it. But saying that, so now there's some options to protect our whole body. One of them is these very spaceman-like looking suits, impervious to liquid. This is the one that I'll dress up in a moment, just to kind of show you the process, more of taking it off than putting it on. But that's an option if they're available. I'm going to step past the camera, sorry. The other one is that you get disposable impervious gowns that you can wear. And you can see that the objective of it really is to keep any spray or splatter off the front of you. And that's all that it's really about. So that whatever sprays, whatever gets coughed, whatever gets touched onto you, at the end of the process, when you take it off, it's not left on your clothing. Just in terms of removing a gown, you would normally have gloves on, but all that you do is grab each of your shoulders and just pull them away from you, so that whatever's outside ends up on the inside. So in other words, whatever's towards me is still safe. I've still got a glove on. I can take it from the other side and I can dispose of it. This is a disposable gown. If you're working in a setting where your EMS is only going to get hold of normal hospital gowns, that's also okay. Use it exactly the same, dispose of it into the laundry, just with everything else, it's fine, it's going to get washed. Cool. So let me get dressed a little bit. Those of you can't see, I'm going to take my shoes off just so I can do this. Sorry about the smell. Remember that when you're getting dressed, you're not worried about infection and all of those things because you're going to get dressed in a space that's safe. I would normally go back to the ambulance because that's where these items would be, and I'd go and get dressed there. And it just zips up. If they have tabs for your thumbs, it helps to just put your thumbs through them, just so that it doesn't slip up your arm. If it has a hood, it's probably a good idea to use the hood, because that just protects your hair to a certain extent. If you're going to be transferring patients, you know it's a really sick patient, and especially if there's large risk of those aerosolizing procedures, so airway maneuvers particularly. We're going to ventilate the patient, we're going to be suctioning the patient. Then you want to up the level of your protection, especially the person doing the procedure. You definitely want to have something long sleeve. I would, if I'm going to be doing those airway procedures, want to cover my hair as well. Just make sure that I'm just covered as much as possible from whatever droplet lands on me. I know that whatever lands on me afterwards I can wash off, so I'm not that scared, but I'm going to cover myself anyway. I'm going to go blind for the next few moments, because I'm going to wear proper eye protection. Before I put that on, a mask, and again, because I'm worried about high-risk airway procedures, I'm going to wear an N95 mask, and ideally make sure that it's fit tested. And somebody's going to speak a little bit later about how to fit test the mask and make sure that it fits your face correctly. But I'm just going to make sure that when I breathe, I'm breathing through the mask. I'm going to move the mask out the way just so I can communicate with you for the rest of this talk, otherwise nobody can hear what I'm saying. So I've got my eye protection, I've got my mask, and I always put my gloves on last because that's just the easiest thing to do. And my cuffs are going to go, if I'm wearing long sleeves, on the outside of whatever garment I'm wearing. If you're going to wear a hood, just keep your mask straps on the inside of your hood. And you'll see when we come to taking it off, it's just so that the sequence of removing everything goes in the right sequence. Once you're dressed like that, you're ready to then go and look after your patient. The most important part of this whole process is in fact not the garment, but the person inside the garment and the discipline that you have in terms of how you work when you're doing this. Because if while you're working on a patient you suddenly get an itchy nose, it's really easy to just quickly go like that and then carry on working with your patient. And then you've defeated the object of PPE entirely. So it's all about the discipline in how you behave when you're dressed like this. So don't touch anything of yourself, and don't unnecessarily touch any surfaces. Remember, if we're going into a patient's home, we're going into an environment that the patient has been touching everywhere. So when I go into that house, I'm not going to go and sit on the couch and have a conversation with the patient. I'm going to stand and not touch anything of that patient's. That's probably more important from a protecting perspective. It's just not contacting what you don't have to contact. Now we can carry on and we can move our patient and we can do everything we need to do. The most critical part of PPE is actually how you take it off. In other words, that you take it off in such a way that you don't have whatever on the outside of your glove or the outside of your clothing, and then you just go and touch it anyway, and then the PPE becomes irrelevant. So taking off the process is kind of in reverse. I'm going to start off just because it's the most uncomfortable part of which is the hood. I just grab it on the outside because it's dirty touching dirty, and I can just pull it out the way. Things that are around your face, one of the nice things to do is just lean forward while you're removing them and just drop it forward so that it's not really touching you. And you can do the same with the mask. You just pull it off your face. And I've only touched the outside. The only thing that ever touches your mask on the inside should be your face. And this is really important in the environment that we're entering into, because especially N95 masks are already really difficult to get your hands on. What we know is that an N95 mask is probably safe for up to about 8 hours, which means that we may be in a situation where we're going to have to use our N95 masks for more than one patient, if in the EMS setting. So when you're storing your mask, one of the things to do is don't put it in a plastic packet, allow it to dry out. So in a paper bag is a really good idea, or in the sun somewhere is even better, and allow it to dry. And then you can use it for up to 8 hours. As long as it fit tests, as long as you get a good seal and the straps are still good, you can reuse an N95 mask. And this particular suit is fairly easy to remove, like most overalls. And I'm trying really hard to only touch the outside. And if there's a chair around, use it. Don't make life difficult for yourself. And I'm going to keep my arms in the overall the whole time, because I've still got my gloves on. I'm only pulling on the outside as I go outside my foot. I'm pulling on the outside. Because now what I can do is I can dispose of the gloves and the overall together. Because if my gloves are on the outside of the sleeve, if I pull on it, the glove and the sleeve will come away together. My clean hand is on the inside, so I'm not worried about what I touch, because I'm touching what's been touching me the whole time. And I do the same thing, glove and an overall, and I dispose of that. It's a disposable item. The gloves are disposable, it goes straight into a red bag or a red bin, and we're then okay. The most important step at this stage is to wash my hands, and wash my hands properly. We should be washing our hands at multiple contact points. This is a really important one. I wash my hands properly, and I'm probably going to wash my face as well, because even though I've had protection over it, who knows, something may have gotten onto my skin. I'm going to have clean hands, touch it on my face, and then move it around. Wash my hands, wash my face, and then I'm fine. Cool. Anything else? No, that is fine. This is just an example of disposable scrubs that you can get in some of the packs. The trouble is the availability of these is becoming really, really limited. But you would just take these off, go and shower, and you're ready to do the next one. Then about the vehicle, which is probably even more important, because we've now had this exposed patient inside of our vehicle on our stretcher, touching everything. There's a few different methods of decontaminating it. You can either use straight chlorine in water. The recommendations are between 600 to 1,000 parts per million of chlorine in water. You can use, there's quite a few interesting disinfectant wipes that you can use. And then in some settings, they've also got those UV light robots that zap the inside of the vehicle. The suggestion is probably around making sure that you wipe every surface with whatever disinfectant wipe or chlorine that you're using, allow it to dry, and then wipe it again. In my service, we actually wipe 3 times just to make sure. And it's wipe, allow it to dry, however long that takes in the environment you're in, wipe it again, allow it to dry, wipe it again, and then your vehicle is clean. And remember to clean all of the surfaces that you come into contact with, you and the patient. And that includes things like the door handles that you've used, everything the patient touched. You may want to limit the items that come into contact with the patient. So things like, do you have to do an ECG on that patient? If not, don't expose your cables to the patient. Only let whatever you absolutely have to have touch the patient for that particular clinical condition. The driver is an interesting person because the driver will almost always assist with loading the patient, and in that case he may be dressed in his full PPE. Please, 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 as a driver, don't then climb in your full PPE into your driver's seat, because now that entire front cab is contaminated. The driver should, before they climb into the driver's space, undress and wash their hands. We need to keep the front cab clean. And when we're disinfecting, don't forget to disinfect the front cab as well. And I think that's all I want to say. It really boils down to wash your hands and don't lick the patient. And if you follow those 2 simple rules, you're probably going to be okay. Cool. Who's next?